him. We'll have to wait and see if it affects KT tonight because they're going up against DK, who have been struggling. And what are you expecting from this one, Wolf?
I mean, this is going to be a series where I think drafting matters so much. And I keep saying series because we don't do best of ones in our region, but it is a best of one series, okay, so to speak. And we've seen a lot of different priorities out of Korea. Once again, Canyon is going to be the target here. This is very common in the LCK because Canyon is the one who leads the charge. It's feast or famine with DPlus Kia, whether Canyon gets early leads or not. He's lost the Lee Sin. He's lost the Poppy. And we'll see what comes next here, the final ban for KT. Meanwhile, banning Rumble against Keen, something we were surprised about yesterday because Keen's Rumble wasn't so great in LCK Summer. Perhaps in scrims he's improved it because that's 2 times in a row it's been taken away.
Yeah, and you see this Kalista ban coming out, Deft, another one of those guys who were talking about Ruler in the past. You generally don't want to give the Kalista over to these guys, and aiming, you were looking at some stats actually, Wolf, and showing how aiming hasn't had the best run of it with the Kalista. They don't want to give that one over, but this does mean that the Azir is going to be first picked here for the side of DK.
The Azir going over to Showmaker, denying it from BDD, one of his most iconic champions, and it is taken away. The Talia, his other, taken away in the banning phase, and we'll see a priority here on the Xayah, it looks like here for aiming over his Kai'Sa that he's much more famed for, a pick he utilized during the AP Kai'Sa era and of course during the Shiv era as well. And Lehens, his Alistar, so incredibly strong, even looking to hover it here over the Rakan, because we've seen this utilized even by Kellen himself on the other side against Azir shuffles. Don't think that's necessarily why it's being picked up, but it has been utilized by DPlus, ironically enough, in that same scenario. They'll take it over the Rakan here. Let's see if Canyon's going to prioritize a jungle now with so much already taken away.
Yeah, I think some co-streamers out there might be happy that Kellen's not going to have a chance to jump onto the Alistar once again. But to be honest, you know, that can happen. That kind of thing can happen. So I'm excited to see maybe Kellen can turn it around for this one and handle this Alistar maybe on the other side of the matchup. The Jax, very highly prioritized here for Kana, so they're going to get him onto that.
Yeah, interesting to see the Jax with this much priority, even over Renekton here that has been in the LCK paired more commonly with the Azir. But when you see the Jarvan come through, it all makes sense. You've got a nice setup here in terms of combos. Engage is good, Peel is good. And BDD is going to go back to an older favorite of his, the Orianna. And the Orianna Syndra meta back in 2021. He opted into the Syndra most of the time. We'll be going for the Orianna, the more winning champion in this tournament this time around. So we do have things starting to kind of settle in terms of priority here. DPlus can try to target Keen a little bit to protect this Jax priority, of course, and on the other side of things, 80 carries could be taken away from Deft. Deft loves to play prio picks, the Kalista, the Caitlyn, Draven, any pick that gets him prio and allows him to push the lane.
Lucian
has been
in the past.
Lucian, Nami, that's exactly Deft's MO, so I really like this angle here from KT Rolster.
And we're going to have Cassante banned. I know a lot of you out there are very sad about that. There's no Cassante in this game, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty good. I think you want to take that one off the board in terms of like a blind pick you could get and then maybe save the last pick for Cuz. He is a guy that can pick some of those wonky characters in the jungle. We saw the Zac already. Let's see what this next ban against Deft is going to be. At least that's what we're expecting. No, it's just going to be the Renata, and you talked about this before. Kellen, a great Renata player, and they're going to take that one away from him.
Yeah, Renata, fantastic for Kellen. Also works well if you're trying to do one of those all-in lanes. They don't have the Kalista, but we have seen Renata and Draven. Varus, another pick that's been used with it. Ashe as well. So just kind of saying, we could take away the Caitlyn. That's the #1 pick next to Kalista that allows them to push the lane. Renata kind of weakens some of the other ones that are left. We'll see the Akali banned away here. We have seen Keen play this top side. It is kind of common in the LCK, albeit not recently. So just keeping that one under wraps, it is so strong into the Azir.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think, you know, as one of those edge pocket picks for Keen, trying to take that one away, there is still a lot left available in the top side, so Renekton seems pretty natural there to go for on the side of Keen. They did not want to have to deal with the Akali into the Jax, something that Keen has just destroyed many a top laner on in the past. So they take that one away. The Renekton comes out. What is the bottom lane for DK?
Will they be so bold as to lock the Ezreal something we've seen Death find success on in 2022's World Championship. The Ziggs!
Oh,
the
yes!
Ziggs! It's happening, man!
It's happening! Oh, man! Now, Deft is one of the guys in the LCK that has picked this one up. Now, we haven't been super happy with this build, but that's fine. The champion itself is really strong. And you know what? I mean, it's a lot of magic damage. You're going to be relying on kind of the Jax and the Jarvan to toe up the AD damage, or rather just the attack damage. But the Ziggs coming out is just huge, and they're going to use that to try to shut down. It's so good into Xayah. Like, it is amazing
so good into Xayah. And you know what else it pairs well with is Cataclysm from Jarvan. So you can set that up now. We will see the Sejuani to get locked in here for Cuz. This has been one of his best picks throughout 2023. We saw KT Rolster since 2018 in the LCK really struggle to return to form. It was 2022 at the end of the year where we saw a little bit of a spike. Wasn't enough to send them to Worlds. They were ultimately defeated by DRX, who did win the entire thing. But this has kind of been KT's biggest year in such a long time, and this Cuz Sejuani has been a huge part of this. In terms of Lehens, Alistar came up at the end of summer. Lehens was one of the best Alistar players at it. But otherwise, you're looking at aiming on Xayah versus Deft Ziggs. Does feel like a pretty big mismatch. And I'm going to have to go with Kana on Jax, Canyon on this Jarvan as a much stronger setup here, a much stronger combo. And I feel like DPlus got more of what they wanted, whereas KT feel like they're still adjusting to this new meta.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to bring in the new meta in some of these picks. This is the first Ziggs we have had in the bottom lane in an international event since MSI 2022. So that was last year, about a year and a half ago, right? Ziggs, it has power. Can Deft prove it in this matchup? I am so excited to find out.
It's going to be his third time playing the champion this year. He's 1-1 on the pick, but one he has gone to in the past, and it's a really niche pick. DPlus come very prepared for this. It's a pick we've all been talking about backstage as we think this is so strong. It's definitely going to come out in this tournament. It's coming out tonight.
It's coming out tonight, and this DK versus KT Rolster matchup is also beginning right now. As the fan cheers. Oh my God. They are going absolutely nuts out there. That is amazing. The DK up against KT matchup. We've seen this many times in the LCK, and KT obviously having a fantastic showing in the regular season. Not quite able to drive it home when it mattered most in terms of finals, in terms of playoffs, but we know what this team is capable of.
For KT Rolster, this is such a critical moment because we talk about magic numbers on the Swiss stage. The magic number to get out is 3. But the tragic number is 3 as well. You drop this one, you go 0-2, you're going to have to win several best of 3s in order to get out of the tournament. And KT, they haven't lifted that Worlds trophy like Damwon did in 2020. They haven't been to Worlds in 5 years, and the fans are lucky enough to be able to see them locally here live in Korea after having a dominant year, yet not being able to make either domestic finals in the LCK. And I think for KT, this is such a critical moment. You went 0-1 at the start of this Swiss stage. You are the favorite here. You went 2-0 in regular season against DPlus, and you want to bring it back now.
Absolutely. It's huge. And guys, you know what's also huge? You can connect your League of Legends account with Prime Gaming to grab the exclusive experimentation emote. Make sure not to miss this, guys. That emote is so cool. And you can just get it. If you just connect to your account, it's that easy with Prime Gaming. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one does play out. I talked a bit about builds, so we've seen a lot from Deft down the, Rod of Ages and Seraph's Embrace. I think that Ziggs doesn't really need that. Note that he also went for the cookies in this one, did not go for cut down, especially against Renekton, Sejuani, even Alistar. I feel like you get a lot of value with that, but just going to forego that here. And like you said before, Wolf, he's had success, and it's especially good into Xayah, who loves when champions are attacking her, where they're going very aggressively into her feathers. She can pull it back and get a lot of value on the disengage. Ziggs is the opposite of that, right? Yeah. He's got the range, he's got a lot of poke damage, and Xayah is going to struggle. Early on the lane, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but as the Ziggs gets items, I'll be very curious to see if aiming can handle the heat.
Side note, if you couldn't tell, Valdez is a Ziggs main. Just had to put that one out there.
Oh yeah, and shout out to our boy Aux as well, recently joining the LCK. He is actually the original Ziggs main. This guy taught me everything I know. So We've both been playing it for a long time. Just wanted to shout him out, and just really happy that Deft is trying to mix it up. I got a little worried when I saw, okay, Zaya's just prioritized once again, but yeah, good to see some new stuff coming out.
Yeah, leaving the Xayah and having the answer, definitely very cool to see. BD taking a lot of damage here as Showmaker pushes the wave in, and we'll have that additional prio. Canyon going to go for topside scuttle here with Ziggs and Leona in position to try to potentially contest bottom side here. We could see a double scuttle attempt, but it is going to be tough to pull off. Lehens is going to be able to corral Kellen out of here, and it's not going to happen. I also want to mention, of course, you do Comet to try to continue to poke and get that additional lane lead here as Ziggs, but often you feel a lot of pressure and have to back often if you do get ganked, so you have teleport. Also, Ziggs has incredible wave clear for the later parts of the game, does tons of damage to turrets, so that teleport choice is kind of a Ziggs exclusive here in the bottom lane right now because you don't get value out of heal. You're not going to want to have cleanse because if you're getting caught by CC, you're not playing Ziggs right.
Yeah, he's all about zone control, right? You put down the mines, you use that satchel very expressively for when you're in danger, right? You don't want to use that to poke. So Deft, he definitely knows how to play this champ, and you know, I think it's the perfect place for it as well. As we do see a bit of a 1v1 on the top side, Kana has played quite a lot of Jax, quite a lot of Renekton as well, and quite a lot of Jax versus Renekton. Not too surprising, but yeah, excited to see what he can get done in the top side against Keen. This has been a matchup we've seen many times in the LCK.
And if you're someone who watches, you know, Worlds, it is unique to see a new team here in KT roster, right? We didn't get DRX, obviously defending champions. The roster completely changed, but right now, DPlus, if you think about them having a title first time for KT, it feels like maybe DPlus are the massive favorites going into this one. But it's been a rough year for them. They've experimented with changing their support up. It's been shot calling issues for this roster. And Showmaker, it feels like for a long time, lost his mojo, but at least at the start of this game, putting that pressure on in the mid lane, looking good. Teleports are now traded. See if Keen can make something happen here with level 6. I don't think so. We'll just put that additional pressure on, but DPlus here, I like the draft, but KT has just constantly had their number this year long.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you say about DK. It's so true. I mean, it feels like they have the tools, but maybe just not the connection to get it going. The shot calling issue has been there, and you know, that first matchup against G2, it did look like they were able to turn it around at the Baron, but it was just barely not enough as G2 just straight up outplayed them by the end of it. So willing to see if DK can kind of turn this one around in a really tough matchup in the draw that we did have, of course, which was pretty fun to watch. As yeah, I love that Showmaker also takes away the Azir. He's not like the most flashy Azir out of all of our Korean mids that we do have here from the LCK specifically. But to take it away, I mean, he knows what he's doing on that champ, so excited to see what he can get done.
Yeah, it is certainly going to be very impactful in this game now. Cuz does not have level 6, so his ability to affect this top lane is pretty small at the moment. Dragon has spawned, mind you, and right now you do see Canyon hovering around the bottom side of the river here. We'll check vision. It's a very tense moment because neither team has really strong control over either top or bottom, so much so they can actually take these objectives, nor can they start them. And whoever starts it first will inherently be at somewhat of a disadvantage unless you can further that edge. So it is just going to be a slow and passive early game here as Keen just continues to try to put the pressure onto Kana here top side, living away at that first plate.
Yeah, no, he's going to be putting on the pressure as much as he possibly can. Deft on the Ziggs, not really able to get too much pressure onto the turret plates just yet. And he has not used a single biscuit. Would be nice if he had cut down, but it's probably the last time I'll mention it. Probably. I can't guarantee it. But we'll see. We'll see. As you were talking about those ganks, Deft is level 6. He is going to get comboed here by Lehens, and Ignited is going to use that satchel very late. Does flash onto the backside of it. In comes Cuz looking to force it, and it looks like he gets it with the permafrost. First blood onto the Ziggs in the bottom lane as Cuz comes up with a huge gank.
Oh man, Deft teleportless, now flashless as well. Canyon's just a little bit too slow here on the play. Cuz has his ultimate available, and they can set this up so easily here on the overextended Ziggs. And that should be able to be the first objective here for the side of KT Rolster. Again, plates getting worn down here on the top side. Keen picking up money without even being involved. Even going to try to proxy this wave will be unsuccessful, but KT not going to start the Drake up just yet. They're going to take their win, reset here, and take the gold. as we take a look at this fight one more time. They get the knock up here. Lehen's on this Alistar, sets up the combo. There's the stun. Even though the flash and satchel charge is almost enough, Cuz is able to buffer this and make it work. The ultimate comes out, and Deft, no flash now. His teleport down, can't quickly return to lane.
Yeah, not quite respecting the ability for them to chain that CC, and Deft does get run down the lane. Now Canyon does get the back out of KT, so they try to go for this Drake here. The Ziggs, even early on, can try to control this choke, and let's see if they can actually get it done. Lehen's trying to threaten, but see the rest of the team is just backing away, and they will give this one over. So DK at least able to pick up the first Drake of the game.
Yeah, quick to respond, return to that objective after KT back, and first objective does go their way. In terms of gold, it's a small one, but it's early game, so it's quite significant here. Rift Herald will be the next point of contention here. You've got to be so respectful as Def now. No flash. Satchel charge gives you a little bit of a leash, but it's not always alone going to be enough. See how quickly he can just toss these abilities in and take this wave, though, and then back away. Wanting to push the issue even further, in fact, down here in this lane, and this is the first real damage Deft is going to maybe attempt to get on this turret, but no plates for the Ziggs.
Yeah, and he is going into the Seraph's Embrace build eventually. He's going to delay the amount of damage that he can do pretty significantly until he's at about 3 items. He would also love, especially on this patch, the plates are still 175, right? He would love to push in and get some plates and actually threaten some turret kills, but not able to get that pressure going on the bottom side, as Aiming and Lehens have held their own and gotten some help from a nice little Cuz to join them down the bottom side.
Yeah, Cuz is there. Keen's got prio. BDD gets control. He's now picked up his Merc Treads. And things are going pretty swimmingly here for KT Rolsters early game. Yes, the Ziggs will be a problem later on. The ability for the Jarvan to engage is potentially going to be a problem later on too, but so far KT just kind of riding the momentum. They would have loved to grab that early Drake, but in terms of gold right now, sitting pretty. And Aiming's just catching these waves, and no real damage done to the turret means you're not worried about Ziggs' passive. You're not worried about that additional damage coming through.
Yeah, just chilling out, farming it back and forth. It is...
it's an LCK game, Valdez.
You know, we're 10 minutes in, and we just cast JDG BLG, and I was like, hey, 7 minutes, we haven't had action. What's going on? We're definitely going to get action, and we did. I can't really say the same about this one, Wolf. I mean, you know, I'm watching this, I'm like, I don't know. Because DK, they have Jax, they have Azir, they have Ziggs. Why would you ever want to fight before you have 2-3 items? I mean, obviously, there are some spikes. You've got the Jarvan, you've got the Azir. There are plays you could make, but... will they?
I mean,
that's my question.
I mean, it will often rely on KT overextending and putting themselves in harm's way for a big Cataclysm or Flag and Drag engage onto BDD, for example, but no one's really been under pressure, obviously, because having to flash early to secure that kill, but otherwise all flashes up for KT. Who do you pick? Who do you find? Kellen roaming topside here. Well, there's a ward in that brush. It's going to be hard for him to make something happen with this level 6. KT identify this, drop the Rift Herald in mid, and will further some additional gold here for this Orianna. Pick up some plates.
Yeah, not going to overextend for this. Just some plates over to Cuz. BDD going to miss out on those. Showmaker does take that one out, and yeah, like you said, you know, Kellen showing on the top side, trying to make something happen. I like the idea, especially with Leona Jax, and they do clear that one out.
Cuz and Lehens are waiting here for Deft, and he knows it. He's not going to teleport back to that turret just to get dove, so Plate Gold's going over to Aiming this entire time, and Deft is missing massive farm. It's a good read from Deft and DPlus Kia that there's a potential dive here, but this is so much money going into Aiming's pocket, and this Ziggs is going to take so long to come online. All the farm denied, all the plates picked up here. And man, this is not going to be an easy one for DPlus to pull off. We like the draft, but the situation is not so great for the Ziggs. It's going to take a long time before he's going to be relevant.
Yeah, Aiming just essentially catching up with that one in terms of the CS, and as you mentioned, the 2 turret plates pretty huge there for the side of Aiming, so he's getting pretty much a free lane to just farm it out. He's the Xayah, that's what he would like to do. Now we do have Lehens on the top side of the map. The other side of the Rift support trying to make a play up here on the top side. Keen's taking a lot of damage up there underneath the turret. Has not gone into the Dominus, has his flash available, so just threatening it, but not actually making action happen, Wolf.
Yeah, that was a very close call there. If he committed any further, that would have been the end of him with Canyon nearby, flash and ultimate available. Jarvan's engage range is insanely high. Keen will walk away with his life. They don't commit. Lehen's looking for Showmaker.
A little shuffle away, and he will be okay. And we do have the straight coming up here. It is a Chemtech, but you do want to pick these up as early as possible. We've seen teams run away with 4 Drakes and it be game-changing. I'm sure DK knows a little bit about that. So, yeah, just going to wait out for it, and maybe Def can hit his Leandries before we do get into this fight. I think that would be pretty much the one time you would want to actually fight over this as DK. Otherwise, you know, if KT make a mistake, maybe you make a play for it, but otherwise I would expect KT to take this one down.
He does have it, and he's got, of course, Unleashed Teleport, just going to teleport back to the safety of his turret here before this fight does break out. But as you mentioned, this is the big one. This is the fight where you can see DPlus really look for a straight-up 5v5 fight. Look at the damage starting to come through on that Leandries here. It's going to take time. They can whittle away, and he's got his ultimate as well.
Yeah, they're trying to force this ult out early. Kellen is not going to hit it. He gets root down. We have the teleport coming in, and Lehens gets the double knockup, trying to get this one going, but that's going into a choke. They don't want to do that. Lehens getting pretty low, and he is going to back out of this one, but KT take control of the river. DK considering getting on in here, some low health bars on the Lehens and aiming, and that's the bomb. Forces the Featherstorm, and now aiming does not have that ultimate for the follow-up engage from DK.
Slow and steady wins the Dragon here for DPlus. Double Leandries, and they are chipping away at these health bars. Sure, Kellen's engage was very lackluster, but it won't ultimately matter.
Oh, and they're looking for a bit more. Cuz and Keen overextending quite a bit, and the poke damage is coming out here. Some low health bars. You talked about the Leandries. Finally, they are going to find Showmaker in the front, but there's just no follow-up on that one. So DK, a lot of skirmishing here, and finally they commit onto the Croc, but they don't take out Kellen. They don't have the damage to take him out, and it's 3 kills going straight into the pockets of KT.
Oh, really rough overextension here for KT. They got the slow damage, but they do push way too far in. And that is going to be another set of gold going over to KT. I mean, it's a 3,000 gold lead. Sure, you lost the objective. It is Mountain Soul, which, by the way, you start stacking those up, you're going to be able to deal with a lot of that Ziggs poke later on if KT start winning this game here, or winning the objectives, rather, from here. They're certainly winning the game right now, despite the Dragon lead for DPlus. But they just got a little bit too trigger-happy on the Jax. And that's one of the awkward things as we take a look at the MasterCard lane economy snapshot here. Small lead for BDD, pretty large leads everywhere else. But I was going to say, one of the disjointed parts about this composition is you can use the Jax, you can use the Jarvan to engage, and you can set up bombs with it. But if you don't actually have the combo set up, it's hard to actually chase teams down after you poke them away. It's usually much better to just huddle around the objective, take your wins where you can, and force KT to come to you. You got a little bit excited on this one. No KT puns intended, but this really ends up being, unfortunately, KT turning this one around in a massive way. Keen narrowly escapes here, and the Cataclysm works against DPlus Kia.
Yeah, so KT able to totally take over the game from here. Now let's see, I mean, they're trying to make a stake for this second Rift Herald, but Cuz is in the pit, or he's nearby. Keen and Kana going head-to-head down on the bottom side here. BDD not sure who to support, as Showmaker kind of in the same boat. Keen looking to turn onto Showmaker, but Keen is left all alone. They can't get over the wall. He's so far in there, and DK will take down the Croc in this one. And there you have it. So pretty interesting fight. I don't think that Keen necessarily had to go that deep, and Canyon also picked up the Rift Herald.
Yeah, Canyon picks up the Rift Herald, so this is pretty huge for DPlus. I mean, it's going to be one step that they need, like one step in a series of many if they want to get back into this game. But look, they have 2 Drake lead. If they could turn this into some additional prio, perhaps, for the Rift Herald, I mean, the timing of this doesn't work out too great for them. It's only 3 minutes, or nearly 3 minutes away from that 3rd Dragon for them. But if they can get Mountain Soul Point, buy a lot of time, they have a Jax side lane win condition where they can slow this game down, buy time for the Ziggs to come online. It's definitely not all doom and gloom, and that was a big mistake from KT that DPlus are going to feel a little bit better about after this.
Yeah, it gives them a foothold into making this one a little bit more even. You talked about comeback mechanics and the potential to just wombo combo your way back into a game from 9K down. We do know G2 were able to do that a little bit earlier on today. DK definitely have a pretty similar combo. I think they may need a little bit more items in terms of this one. You got the Azir, the Ziggs, and the Jax only sitting on their first ones for now, but that's the Ziggs potential right there with the Rift Herald.
Yeah, just to explain for those who don't know what happened there, the Rift Herald charges down the turret to sub 25%. Ziggs can blow it up with his satchel instantly, so that's exactly what Deft is looking for. Uses his passive, uses his satchel. Now this fight here is going in the favor of DPlus. Keen thinks he can get into the backline to perhaps threaten Showmaker, but Kana is waiting, tracking him, knows he's likely to try to flank this, and of course Showmaker has self-peel. Keen does a ton of damage here, but it's not ultimately enough. Unfortunately, for the side of KT, and Keen's flank is a bust. They do end up giving over the Rift Herald, and with Ziggs' passive, that's more gold. That gold lead for KT here is still there, but you can see it's starting to shrink a little bit.
Yeah, it's starting to level out just a little bit. Gold difference over time, powered by AWS, and I mean, this is probably going to slow down from here, to be quite honest. I don't think that we are going to see too much action with no Drake and no Rift Herald on the map, but who knows? I mean, let's see what they have in the tank. For now, we just have a little fight over this Rift Scuttler here. And Dev just farming away. He is going to be building towards that Seraph's Embrace, which eventually he will be doing some big damage. Not going to go for the Shadow Flame just yet. We'll be curious to see the rest of his itemization.
Yeah, that is going to be quite interesting to see. And obviously the Nashor's Tooth for Showmaker is going to really improve his damage output for objective control. 40 seconds to go on this Mountain Drake. Doesn't look like he's going to have it just in time for this yet. Doesn't have teleport, just teleported back in. Would have been a huge spike for him, but nonetheless, DPlus absolutely want to fight over this, and if they can control these choke points, they have a Leona, they have an Azir. It's hard for KT to get in here and engage. It's hard for Orion to set up a ball, and they have the burn damage that they could just keep landing that poke, and that's exactly what Deft needs to do.
Yeah, the burn damage is huge. I mean, double Leandri's against Renekton, Sejuani, Alistar is just really oppressive, and I think that as long as you can keep them at arm's length, DK will be happy to just continue to poke them down.
Gotta hit it, though.
Waiting in the bush. Kellen does get engaged on, but he's Leona. It's really difficult to die on that champion, as now KT moving in as a 5-man unit. Kellen just going to run away from this one. DK will give them the river and continue to try to poke them out.
Ball placement here, fantastic for BDD. Now they have gained control of the choke point themselves. All the poke missing from depth there, and KT just kind of ride out the storm here. Double control wards there on that pixel brush. It's really difficult to actually aim that poke now, but it is landing.
There's the poke. It's coming on in over the top, but you can see some shields helping them along the way, although the damage has been done. Kana also on the flank here on the right side. He's looking for that perfect angle, and KT don't seem to have any idea this is coming in. Let's see if he can find the perfect timing to go for this engage. Where is he? Okay, there he is. They finally find him, and now he's not able to get much damage done at all. Flashes, hops over the wall, just trying to gain some space for the team as DK. They're looking to take down this dragon, and they should be able to get it. Lahen's not able to get in, and we will have a fight where nobody dies.
A lot of the poke didn't land for Deft, but the threat of Kana kept KT really honest, and the fact that they had to stay back in that choke and wanted to avoid the Counter-Strike bought just enough time. They see him at the last possible second there, but he buys enough time for DPlus to actually secure the dragon and get out. Now it's Soul Point here, despite the gold deficit. Again, that Mountain Soul is going to be so impactful in this game, especially for Jarvan and Leona in the front line with those additional shields they're going to get. So this is pretty massive for DPlus, and I think if Cuz's ultimate actually connects with Kana there, perhaps they at least get the Jax as a kill, but I think DPlus would have been happy for the sacrifice to get the dragon. Not only do they get the dragon, but Kana escapes.
Yeah, we have the win probability powered by AWS. You can see that it is still very even. Take note, though, that it did dip down to like 80% in favor of KT, but since then has tapered off pretty significantly.
Yeah, you know, those dragons really do mean a lot, and it is going to be a question of, you know, will DPlus' scaling on the Ziggs ultimately become relevant enough to actually overdo KT's lead right now? See, he's working towards that Void Staff. The tier completed now, and still no second item here for Showmaker. Once he gets that Nashor's Tooth, that is really going to up his ability to apply the Leandries and do additional damage to the front line that KT is trying to use to close the gap. Because aiming on this eye, he's low range. We've been talking about it all game long. Getting out poked by Deft, getting out poked by Showmaker. This is a problem. They need to keep them at arm's length.
Yeah, absolutely. Ziggs one of the best Leandri's applier as well. Could even potentially go into like an Oblivion Orb if he wants to cut down on some of the healing that we do have on the side of KT. We'll have to wait and see, because obviously he's great at applying that as well. KT right now just controlling the top river, just waiting to see if anyone will, overstep their boundaries, because this is one of the ways that KT actually get and engage on their terms, right? We talk about this all the time, the vision control, and you can see that Lahen's and Cuz looking for something. They try to get in onto Canyon, but going pretty deep for that one.
Yeah, a little bit deep on that. Won't be able to commit any further. Cuz just going to back out here. This is a very tense game state, because I don't want to say KT's comp is on a clock necessarily, but you've got a Jax who's going to be a big problem in the side lane that Keen won't necessarily be able to match as this game goes longer. You're dealing with double scaling AP threats with the Leandries, and KT don't have any Drakes, so this game is just going to go longer basically by default. As Keen looking to get out of this one.
Ooh, pretty close on that, but Kana not going to continue on that one. At this point, the Renekton can kind of trade. You know, it depends on the situation if he gets some damage on in, but Kana pretty confident to try to take this 1v1 if Keen does want it at this point. Only up a level is Keen, so still pretty even in that side lane. The Void Staff completed for the Ziggs, and you talked about the double AP scaling threats. I mean, that's going to be super important, especially when you are dealing with, you know, a Sejuani that's going to be extremely tanky. You want something to chip through, or rather chunk through, the magic resist on the side of KT that they will definitely build into Azir and Ziggs.
Yeah, definitely true. See BDD with 2 rods completed here, but does not quite have that second item yet. And this is a really scary moment when you consider the AP threats are so big here for DPlus, and 90 seconds to go on this Dragon. BDD would love to finish that second item here before this fight breaks out. But, I mean, if DPlus get this, the game turns really on its head quite sniffly. We talked about, oh, we're one step closer to that soul, one step closer to the soul. This is the soul this time around. You can see in terms of the gold here, Aiming and Keen massively ahead, but doesn't necessarily matter if they can't get to their opponents to hit them, and that's been the big problem here for Aiming.
Yeah, actually utilizing the items that you will have is something we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he is a Xayah with Flash and Cleanse. There is a way, like, again, if this fight goes in the right direction and they can get a favorable engage for him to get in the faces of DK and actually deal that damage. The problem does arise, you know, from behind. Perhaps you do not get it going as Cuz is going to steal away the red. gets big oohs and ahs from the crowd. You know, we're not used to this amount of action, Wolf. I don't know if I can handle it.
Well, KT now trying to get some additional oppressive vision around this this Drake, because this is such a critical fight. We do see no death cap yet for BDD, and this is a problem. They want to have that. Okay, picks it up now, just backed for it. And this is going to be so important for KT. They can't actually hold on to this choke point without BDD being here. He's not going to commit teleport. He's walking down slowly. We'll be able to clear this wave. But time works against KT once Steph starts hitting that poke. Once Showmaker starts hitting it, they got to pick somebody. They've got to do it fast.
Trying to go in on the canyon. He's just going to flash away. He says, no, I don't, you know, this is not how we win fights, right? I'm just going to use this flash. It's still a win to the side of KT. Now you don't have that engaged threat from the Jarvan as much. Obviously still can find some angles. And Deft, essentially, you can see what DK are trying to do. They're just trying to throw bombs over the wall, throw soldiers in. They're going to find BDD, and that is a huge amount of poke damage. It's not going to be game-changing, though. BDD going to run around to his team.
See if he wants to teleport back into this one. It's very awkward for him. He's super low. Looks like that's what he's going to do, but this buys so much time for DPlus to now get on top of this Dragon here, looking for Kana on the flank. We'll get his counter-strike out here. Again, time working against KT. There's that teleport.
And you can see the amount of poke that Deft is already putting out. BDD is back into the fight. They want to pull the trigger right now. They just got to go in. KT, you got to do something, and they're going to get the flash out of Showmaker, and that allows them to pick up this Mountain Drake. But in goes Kellen, just going to go down for free. Not much that DK can do to follow up on that. The satchel is nothing. There's a wall in the way, and a huge divide might help him out, but the permafrost is coming out, and I don't think Deft is going to get away from this one. No satchel, no hope as Canyon trying to get something done here. He's got Showmaker with a huge amount of damage, but this is 2v3, 2v4 even potentially, and they just stick around for way too long. Keen gonna take him out with the help of BDD as Keen is still in there, and this game is going wild now.
KT deny the Dragon, but they're getting even more here. So many kills going over, and I think DPlus really bungled this one because there were so many things that went right. You push the Orianna of the fight, you force it to teleport back in, but they end up losing control of the pit itself. So much of Deft's poke doesn't actually land in the neutral fight, referring to, of course, the setup on the objective itself. And look at Showmaker here on the edge. He's forced to flash out, so that's how you know you should be able to kind of kite your way out of here. But then for some reason, Kellen goes back in, and that's disastrous. Now your Leona's gone. You've got no peel. he could have saved Deft here if he hadn't gone in, but he did. And then Permafrost just barely gets tapped. I mean, Deft so on the edge of escaping. Showmaker uses Emperor's Divide to try to save him. So many things go through. And then Canyon thinks he can turn this with Cataclysm to give Showmaker some additional procs here of that Leandri's and the Nashor's Tooth. But it's all gone awry. And it's up the play of Kellen there again. I mean, they were going to lose the Dragon, but you lost way more than you bargained for here as DPlus. And Kellen was one of the players, by the way, that we were most interested in. His performance in the World's qualifiers regionally in the LCK was part of the reason why we believed DPlus was going to do better than fans expected, even as a 4th seed. It's why so many people are saying DPlus might be back in this tournament. But so far, his performances haven't lived up to the standards of what we've seen from Kellen in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely deserves to be shouted out. And, you know, still hoping that he can turn it around. And I think, you know, there's really a fine line you got to walk when you're playing this kind of composition. It's not an easy one where you press your R button and you kill the enemy, right? Maybe for Ziggs against Zaya, but different, as Kellen is going to walk in front of this one. Definitely the right place to be this time around, and will eat that ult. Does have to flash away as DK really trying to press that poke in, because that's really what they got to do, but they got to Renekton behind them. They have no idea. Deft is in a lot of trouble. Satchel not going to be able to do much. Gets stunned up and killed immediately as Lahens gets into the thick of things, and KT, they're going to find the fight that they needed this entire time. Double kill already for aiming. Can he line up the penta? I'm already looking for it because we have so many. Kana, though, trying to get on in there. And unfortunately, he's just going to go down, gives the triple kill over to aiming. This game might have just ended in a couple of plays, Wolf.
It looks like it. And once again, okay, they're going to back off. They're going to play it safe. You don't want to go 0-2. I mean, 20 seconds on Deft here. He could be the savior of this game if he does, of course, survive. You see Showmaker just pushing out that wave bottom side as Keen gets onto this. And once again, look at the timing of this. He just barely gets in, gets the stun off, but regardless, it's Lahens. I mean, you hit that slice and dice, or rather the stun there from Renekton. Regardless, if you don't, it's still going to be a play from Lahens that wins this for you. The knockup is fantastic. DPlus just trying to hold on to their base. Didn't see the Keen flank, not enough vision. And it all comes crashing down. The inhibitor down. Baron was up. And, I mean, DPlus, they had the Drake lead, but that's all they were hanging on to in this game. KT denied Soul, and with the advantages they have plus Baron, there's no way DPlus are going to get that Soul now.
Yeah. Red Bull Baron power play coming through in a big way for KT. That fine line has been crossed. KT in total control of this one now, about 8,000 gold in the lead. And this looks like a lot of the games we have cast in the LCK, Wolf, right? Like, this has happened before. KT finding great engages, finding fantastic flanks with Lahens and Keen, and just ripping apart opponents that aren't able to deal with that pressure. And it's just great to see them be able to pull it off here once again on the world stage.
Lost a little bit of the power we expected from them in our top 3 in the LCK playoffs, but coming back in a big way here against DPlus, and it's almost a 10,000 gold lead here now for KT. The kill difference is massive. This is what KT is known for, one of the highest in the LCK. I'm looking for a second inhibitor here. Any picks means certain doom here for DPlus, but they've got to do something to defend these turrets. They've got good wave clear, but it's just not going to be enough.
Doesn't seem to be enough, as Cuz and Lahens looking for that engage. They'll find anyone. They're going to find Canyon as they go pretty deep for that one. The Aftershock maybe saving Cuz, but at this point the damage not quite there on the side of DK. So that's jungler down now. Canyon not in this fight. Kana also being poked out. KT just waiting, just sitting in the base for, just waiting for more waves to come in to potentially end this game. TPs are coming in.
Yeah, TP is coming in. That wave clear is buying them time, but only a little bit here. Still 75 seconds left on Baron.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like that wave clear is there, as Kellen just going to be taken out on the bottom side. Lahens finds another engage, and Cuz just trying to frontline here. The Baron buff just way too much for the Ziggs and Azir to handle, although did they overstep? BDD gets pretty low. Lahens trying to give his life for him as in they go. Ghana just gets ripped to shreds. Aiming is huge.
706.
He's using that massive wallet right now to just shred through the entirety of DK's team. As Canyon, he's going to respawn, but you can't respawn your Nexus. Canyon, he's going to take the one kill. Does not matter. Aiming, and KT will rip through DK and take this game.
KT Rolster do it again. They have not lost since summer to DPlus Kia. They have had the advantage in this match.